Thank you for being part of the March 2025 Open 3D Connect meeting. My name is Naomi. I'm the program manager for the foundation, and I also have Joe, who is the executive director, who will be presenting today. Just for those on the recording, what Open 3D Connect is, just a virtual meetup where you all can kind of get FaceTime with the community, hear demos from the community, and just ask any of your questions that you may be asking in Discord. And just also gives you time to get some FaceTime with Joe and I as well. I just want to remind everyone to adhere to our code of conduct, which essentially wraps up to say, treat everyone with kindness. We are an open source project and we want everyone to feel welcome. We want everyone to feel okay to come off mute, answer their questions, and things like that. So with that, I would like to go ahead and turn it over to Joe, who is going to be our presenter today.
Yes. Uh, I want to second, by the way, making everyone feel welcome. At scale in particular, we had several people comment on how they love how our community operates and that they feel welcome and safe and that they can participate much easier compared to some other communities that are out there. So yeah, so that's an extremely important facet of how we operate. Okay, so with this, I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Can everyone see the O3DE release 25.05.0 proposal for May 13th, 2025?
We
Can they
sure
see that?
can.
Awesome. Okay, so first things first. I cannot take credit for any of this. Mateo, who's the head grain on Discord, who is also our co-chair for the SIG release, did an absolutely amazing job putting all this information together. Way, way, way higher bar than I've ever done for any of our releases. So I am extremely happy. So, if you like this, give all the thanks to Mateo because he's the one who did the work. So with that, the current plan is for us to release on May 13th, 2025, which is roughly 2 months from now. And so the reason we chose May, normally we like to do before the GDC, the Game Developers Conference, but we err on quality over release dates and quantity of features. So that, and we felt that March was too soon to have a quality release. So that is the reason why we chose May. And I believe May 13th is on a Wednesday. So I'm verifying that right now. So March, April,
The
May, no,
Tuesday.
Tuesday. It's a
Yeah.
Tuesday, which is even better. So we generally do our releases so that they coincide with release sig meetings, so that way we can get everyone in to go through the actual release steps, etc. For major releases in particular, we schedule a formal meeting at the same time as we would normally have our sig release meeting to coordinate the release because major releases, like the 25.05 release, they're a bit of work to coordinate. And we have to make sure there's a lot more steps involved than when we do a point release, which is mostly a bug fix release. And so it's good just to have everyone there to coordinate and verify that certain steps have been accomplished. So with that, so we have already branched. So the stabilization branch has been created. I don't know if it's been created yet for O3D extras. Do you know, Jan, if that's the case?
It's there, it's created. For us, we are a bit out of sync because we still have some changes that were pushed to the previous point release and that were not synchronized back to the development, but I will take care of that.
And I'm talking with the networking SIG about the multiplayer sample game as well to see if we need to stabilize that for the release. Okay, so there's TVDs here, but I will act as the kind of a lighter version of the release manager with our co-release manager, which is Laha Grain on Discord, and our documentation project manager. Have you figured that out, JT?
What was
Or
the
who's
question?
documentation project manager? Is that going to be you or Shauna?
It's
For
going to be
the release?
Shauna, and I'll be backing her up. And we've
Okay.
got the documents coming from the
Okay.
document on it.
So after this meeting, I will go through and update these. So it'll be me as release manager, but a much lighter role because Mateo's just so awesome. And then Mateo will be the co-release manager. And then for October, we'll flip it so that he's the release manager. And then we'll have Shauna in here as documentation project manager. And I'll probably add a line for the documentation co-manager, and I'll put you in there, JT. All right, so the release project board. So that is this board here. And so what this board does is it tracks everything about the release. And so, and there's to-dos here for pretty much everything. And Mateo set this up as well. How great on Discord. And just, this is awesome, having this already done. But for each task we said here, we'll be adding some more tasks as we find them. But there's a lot to do for a release here. And the goal of this project board is to make sure things don't slip through the cracks and we forget about them. This will be maintained by Mateo and myself. We're the ones who will be saying, okay, this is done, etc., and adding new tasks. So in general, people can go to this just to find out where things are, but there's no expectations other than SIG release for maintaining this board. Now, as a part of this, we have what we call exception requests, and I'll go into what exception requests are here in a second. But as I go through the release schedule, but this is important because part of the whole release process, and you will see this, is as we get closer to the release, we reduce risk as much as possible. A single line of code can completely destroy a release. So we have to be extremely critical. We weigh everything for impact radius of if things go wrong versus the impact of the feature if we don't include it. Not feature, but sorry, the bug fix if we don't include it. But I have done releases for about 30 years now, and all it takes literally is just one line of code to completely destabilize everything. So that this comes in because essentially people will say, if it's like, let's say it's 2 weeks before the release is going to happen where we lock down, I will say, or they will put a request on this board to say, I would like to get this PR in because it fixes a blocking bug for people who are trying to use animation. So as an example, then SIG release will triage usually within 24 to 48 hours the issue and make a judgment call. And we'll talk to the SIG, that's trying to get something in, and we'll make a judgment call on if, hey, is this something that our users need to have in this release? And if so, what's the plan if things go wrong? And we have to back it out. How easy is this to back out if we find issues? What's the impact radius if things go wrong and we can't back it out for some reason? So all of that. So this board manages those requests to get stuff in. Any questions? Okay, so with that, we will be working on the feature list. We don't have that yet. That'll be a document that we'll put together. We have to do it soon because it's useful to everyone to see and get excited about what's coming. We also use it for marketing as well. So, but we'll be working on compiling that along with the release notes as well. So the stabilization branch. So we have two branches. We have here. Oh yeah, I see the O3DE extras ones here, and I'll take a look at the other repos to see which ones, if they need also a stabilization branch or not. So this is the stabilization branch for the main O3DE repository. So the thing is that we're very picky about what goes in here. And this is the branch that will turn into the release for O3DE. And the goal of this, the reason why we have a stabilization branch is people can continue working in development, so that way we're never stopping people from getting things done in our development branch. But having this branch allows us to fix bugs and quality control, etc. And then one of the things that we need to do, SIG Release needs to do, is figure out how often we're going to integrate all the fixes from this branch back into main. So I will talk to our TSC chair about that, and then get that set up. So with this, now we have so bug reporting. So if anyone files a bug against the release, the 25.05 release, they should add the milestone release 25.05 to the issue, so that way, when we triage, we know that, oh, okay, so here are the issues that are filed against this release, and we can ask people to fix them before the release hits. And then, yeah, basically it's just the same thing as, so bug tracking for the repo, release 25.05. So the release schedule, so down in this document here, we talk about when exceptions are required. And then the board already showed the exception board. Okay, so we talked to all the SIGs, and we raised awareness at the TSC meeting, 2 of them actually, that we were planning to release and what the date was. And all the SIGs said, yep, sounds good, done. Then we talked with the marketing committee as well about the release and let them know. And they also said, yep, made them aware. There was no pushback against it. So we were good with that. The project board was set up. Actually, this isn't a TBD. It was set up last weekend, so I'll fill that date in. The stabilization branches were created on February 27th. We did O3DE extras. Apparently, that was done on March 4th. But the multiplayer sample and NetSoak test, I need to follow up with the networking SIG, because they own those two. At what their plans are there. And now, and this is something, JT, that I will, because I don't think Shauna's in here. So we will need to talk with Shauna about, which is when do they plan to create the stabilization branch? Have they done that already, JT, or are you aware?
No, I think she was talking to Jan about it. So if
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what she was waiting for, but I can
Okay.
check it out in the channel.
Yeah, I'll just need a date as to when she plans to do it.
Okay.
So, and then, so March 5th through April 15th is the stabilization period. So what this means is, if someone wants to get a new feature in, they have to request it through the stabilization branch. However, if they're just doing bug fixes, they don't need to do anything special. They can just integrate bug fixes into the stabilization branch without issue, because we don't want to, add extra red tape. And, April 15th, that's still a month from our release. And so that gives us time so that anything that gets into the stabilization branch can be tested, and then resolved if there's an issue. But features are the things that can trip up a release the most, because they tend to be larger, and lots of code. And like I said, every line of code can destabilize the release. So we do require exceptions, because it's a fairly thorough process where we ask a bunch of questions. The person who's wanting to merge this into release answers them, and then we make a judgment call at whether or not it should be allowed in the release. Starting April 16th, which is when we're through the majority of the stabilization period, we will freeze getting any code into stabilization that is a major or lower. So if it's a critical or blocker issue, we will allow it to go into the release. But everything else you will need to file an exception. So yeah, I'll change this to state that for majors and below, because sometimes there is the case to be made for a major getting into the release, a bug fix that addresses a major issue to get into the release. And what I mean by major issue is that we have classes of bugs. They start with a minor, which means that it's a very low impact. It's mostly either a small quality of life issue or something along those lines. It doesn't stop people from working in O3DE. Majors are things that are like fairly annoying, but they don't block people from working in it. But we'd like to get it fixed. The critical is something that could block someone's path, particularly if they're doing what we call the golden path, which is the expected path into using O3DE, and they or it's like a very, very large paper cut, which is that it causes pain for anyone who's trying to use O3DE. Those tend to be criticals, and then blockers are exactly what they say, which is they are an issue that directly blocks people from using O3DE. So starting April 16th, blockers and criticals are still allowed without an exception, but major and below are not allowed unless you get an exception. The and then every issue is prioritized. Fortunately, there is a SIG that goes through and triages stuff, and they do assign priorities to issues. And if you disagree with the priority on an issue, just feel free to talk to the SIG release and we can discuss it. So also API reference generation for docs. So it looks like a PR will be created by this date. And we also reduced the number of reviews needed to 1 to make it easier for them to get stuff in. And they will get the PR merged by May 8th, and they'll continue accepting changes until May 7th to the docs. Then the docs release notes finalized by April 23rd. So this basically requires SIG release to create the release notes. Then SIG docs basically gets those up so that they'll also be reflected in our docs during the release. Now, starting on April 29th, which is exactly 2 weeks from the release, we code freeze on pretty much all code except blockers. But even with blockers, we need the exception process so that we're just aware of every line of code that's going into the release. But nothing else is allowed. I mean, you could try to put in an exception request, but we're likely going to say no to anything that's not a blocker. And again, the reason is to allow the release time to bake, is what I like to call it, so that we're not constantly introducing more entry points for yet more issues to occur in the release. And especially with only 2 weeks until the release at this point, we don't have a lot of time to address issues if they do show up. Then we do, so what we call a QA final smoke test. What this is we actually ask people to download and play with the installer versions, the Debian package, and let us know what they find. We also make sure that the release version numbers are correct on like the loading splash screen, the installer, etc. So a lot of this happens, and we look for anything that is a blocker for people using O3DE during this phase as well. Anything found between April 30th and May 8th has the potential to block to delay the release, because again, we focus on quality over dates, and so if we find something, we will, and we've done this in many releases, we will postpone the release by a week or two just to make sure that the issue gets resolved. So on May 9th, we'll make a judgment call about the release date. Are we still going to hit May 13th, or do we need to move it forward to another date because we found an issue? And then on May 13th, that's when we actually do the release and we follow, there's all the steps that need to be done for the release. So one of the things I'm going to work with Matteo on is the um, uh, pulling over and then updating our release steps for the actual release meeting. And then on May 15th, which is 2 days later, we do marketing announcements. The reason why we wait for 2 days is that we have learned our lesson in the past, where we just want to make sure that people are having a good experience with O3DE before we really start talking about it and asking people to download it. So the 2 days are to give us time, like, hey, if we notice like a lot of people are having problems installing, then we don't want to make an announcement yet. We'll resolve that, then we'll make the announcement after it's resolved. Any questions? Concerns? I see something in chat.
I have a question about the QA phase. We don't have anyone dedicated doing QA, right?
Nope, we do not. So what it usually is, SIG chairs, co-chairs, people who are interested, member companies. I know Robotech uses these versions at times. And just basically going through downloading. I will go download and test. Mateo will as well. But it's just basically having people do what we call the smoke testing and making sure that all the basic stuff is there and working. We rely on experts who tend to be very concerned with the work that they've done. They will usually test as well. So I know, for instance, Jan and his team from Robotech will make sure that the stuff that they put in for the release actually functions, and works correctly. It's the same across all the other member companies like Huawei, as an example. So, but yes, we do not have a dedicated team because those are super expensive. And it's on. Go ahead.
Nope, I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say, and it's uncommon for open source projects to have dedicated QA.
Yep. And then Andre had a question in the chat. I'm testing 25.05 here. Should I link GHI's I submit or update on SIG testing on a thread?
You don't have to, because we're going to be triaging those, but it does give visibility. However, what I recommend doing, instead of posting them all in SIG release, because actually SIG release doesn't fix bugs, if you find issues, make the appropriate SIG aware of the issue. So if you find something in the editor, post something in SIG content with the PR and saying, hey, this was in 25.05. If you find something with rendering, then SIG graphics and audio. And then that way it gets their attention because they're the ones who can actually fix the issue. Does that make sense? Okay, good.
Yeah, if I may add one more thing, I believe the idea of Matteo was also to link them with the milestone, which is called the
Correct.
release.
Yeah.
And then if any GitHub issue is linked with the milestone, we can
Correct.
easily track the percentage of issues being solved at a certain time.
Yep, you are correct. And actually, Matteo is just awesome, but he actually has an RFC up to automate a lot of that process as well. And for those who are new, RFCs are requests for comments. They're basically the implementation plan for any kind of code. And so he has that up. So feel free to take a look at it. It's in the release. I'll send out a link, but it's actually in SIG release. There we go.
Yeah, so answering once again the question,
Yeah.
I believe there is no need to duplicate things between GitHub and Discord. Discord
There's
is more meant for discussion. So if there are any questions about the issues or any need to double check it on the other side, then of course we can start a discussion on Discord.
right. So while that is Mateo's plan, it has not been implemented yet. So I would say for now, until SIG release says, hey, we have this triage board set up and everything's linked. Feel free to go ahead and bring it up with the SIGs, because I would rather a duplication than something not being seen at all. The second piece is you are correct that Discord is where you would have a immediate discussion about an issue. So you also can have discussions in the GitHub issue as well, but it tends to be more delayed than bringing it up in Discord. So it's up to the person, but right now we haven't set up the board yet to track everything that's going in. That is being done, but it is not finished yet. So for now, go ahead and bring stuff up in Discord, and we'll make an announcement once we have the board set up. That can make it easy to triage and track like what's done and how. Now, the one thing also to discuss is the push-pull. So people tend to respond, or how do I put this? So not all the SIGs are great. Sorry to the SIG chair and co-chair, apologies. But not all the SIGs are great at going out and pulling information from the whatever resources we have available. And so one of my concerns is, until all the SIGs are trained up on this process and know that, as a part of their SIG meetings, they should triage and take a look at this board for like, here are all the issues, etc. Then yeah, pushing the information to the SIGs is probably what we're going to have to do, just to make sure that it's front and center for each SIG, and that they are aware of the issues with the release, and they can make calls on, okay, like, we really think this should be fixed, etc. So so for now, it's a very long way of saying, for now, Andre, definitely post in the SIG if you find something that you're like, ooh, this needs to be fixed. And then myself and Mateo will work with the SIGs on getting this other process so that eventually you can feel okay not getting it front and center to the SIGs, that they'll automatically be aware. The other issue is that SIGs generally only triage once every 2 weeks at most. Like, that's the most frequent they do it. So when we're getting down to the last 4 weeks of a release, that cadence isn't quick enough. And that's something else that Mateo and I need to talk about, as to like how to handle the fact that there's a 2-week triage cadence for SIGs when the release is imminent. So that's a problem we haven't solved yet.
Yeah, Sean and I for the docs team, we're talking that exact same thing, to increase the cadence as we get closer to release.
Yeah. So that's something else we need to resolve. Any other questions? Okay. I will take silence as a everyone's happy with the schedule. Again, I am only presenting this because Mateo could not make it to this meeting because he had a conflict. But Mateo deserves all the credit.
He's here.
Oh, you are? Awesome.
Mateo Grasso, correct?
I think so.
Yeah, he's here. Mateo, Joe's been singing your praises, so I'm happy you can hear some of it.
Is there anything you want to add, Mateo? He's likely just listening in and participating with something else. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So Yeah, so I've been singing your praises, like, this is all your work that you did. It's amazing. It raises the bar for SIG release. So thank you for doing that. And so far, everyone seems good with our schedule. Okay, any other comments, questions, disagreements with the schedule? Oh, welcome, Josh. That is awesome.
Hello.
So I am, so we were just talking about the release and the release schedule. We have a major release coming up in May. And so I was going through our plan as well as the release schedule. I will paste links to our docs and the chat so that people can have it, but they were also, they already pasted in SIG release, so you can feel free to just go look there. And I will paste it in SIG general, or not in SIG general, but in general, so that the community is aware as well that these exist. And if you have questions about timelines, those can be easily answered. So, okay, so here's the schedule. And here is the project board. Like I said, Mateo gets all the credit because he did all the work. So with that, okay, anything else? Okay, if you're interested in releases, feel free to join SIG Release. It's every other Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific. We welcome anyone and everyone, even in our release process. So when we're actually doing the release, if you're just curious how we do releases, you can attend that meeting. My only request is when we're doing an actual official, we're getting a release out the door meeting, that if you are not involved in the release, to just be a bystander and not ask questions and stuff like that until after we say the release is done. The reason being that if an issue comes up, we have to immediately like hop on that, triage, and communicate. But otherwise, yeah, if you're interested, you can listen in, and you'll see, how we coordinate the release, who's responsible for what, etc. Okay, I think that is it for the 25.05 release. Note that we will continue to cover, especially at SIG release meetings, and I will, myself and Mateo will be posting information up on Discord about the release. I think the next big piece of information that everyone is curious about is what all is in this release. And so within the next week or two, we will get that information out, at least a preliminary version, because usually the release notes and the feature list go through some iteration. So, because sometimes we'll pull a feature if we don't think it's ready. But that'll be in the next week or so. I'll work with Mateo and like when he's comfortable with us doing that and getting that information together. Okay, that is it for releases. So the other thing I want to talk about was scale. And then JT, I will have you speak about that some as well, because you're very well connected with scale. So scale is a very Linux-oriented conference. So everyone there, with all the vendors and everything there, it's all about Linux, 100%. There are people there. One of the things was that game distribution on Linux was a very big topic this year. Community was also an extremely big topic this year, rightfully so, because Linux is generally open source pretty much across the board. and open source projects live or die by their communities. And so that was a really big topic. There are a lot of there's a lot of talk about AI, Gen AI in particular. There's a lot of talk about how there's a really amazing talk on how open source projects are operate and are funded. So I attended that one, and that was a great talk, especially for people who are new to open source and how it operates. So if anyone's interested, I'll post the link to the talk because it's now up and anyone can view it. I'll post that up in Discord, just so that people, because it's a really good primer on essentially the types of open source projects, how they're run, how they operate and survive. And then how you can judge an open source project to determine if this is one that you want to contribute to or not. Because not all communities, and I think, and not all communities and not all projects, operate the same. But anyways, I'll paste that link up because I really think it's informative for people who are new. And it also talks about, how, since we're in the Linux Foundation, how we operate. So they go through that as well, because the Linux Foundation has a very specific way that their projects operate, from, boards and memberships and communities. So let's see. But anyways, it was 4 day. I was there for 4 days. And so it was Thursday through, I flew down Wednesday, and then it was Thursday through Sunday. I flew out Sunday. The met with people, some companies like Microsoft, Alma Linux, Red Hat, Canonical. Actually, I had an interesting talk with Canonical. I've already talked with our DevOps person about that. Had a talk with Ubuntu as well. There are just lots and lots and lots of companies that I talked with. A lot of interest in O3DE. I would say it was 50-50 that if whether or not someone would already know about O3DE. The people who already knew about O3DE, we got lots of compliments on our community and our direction that we're moving forward in. But yeah, so it was really good. I'm still just now following up on all my contacts I made there. And I spoke with several universities as well, so I will likely be speaking at some of them this year. I think that was really it. So I travel like for March, I'm traveling to 2 different events this month. But the sole focus for me as the executive director, well, there's really kind of 3 major focuses. The first focus is to help evangelize O3DE and raise visibility and awareness. The second piece is to get people to join the foundation, because the more companies that join the foundation, the more money the foundation has because people pay to join. And therefore, the more we can do as far as, contracting and events, and having booths and things like that. And so that's the second piece. And the third piece is to help set the tone and of both the product as well as the community around that product. Because my belief is that you want to have a inviting, welcoming community so that people feel like that they contribute and not get their heads chopped off because they may have made a mistake or something, but instead we help guide and lead them through, like, hey, this is how we tend to do things in O3D, or hey, we notice you're trying to solve this issue this way, but have you thought about this other way? So giving more that kind of feedback rather than the just saying no. A lot of projects will just say no or have a not done here mentality. We're not like that at all. If we expect people to make mistakes because everyone's human. We expect that, there's going to be disagreements on ideas, and that's totally healthy and fine. And in fact, that's the best to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Yeah, and if anyone here ever runs into an issue with that, please let me know ASAP. Because like I said at the beginning of this talk, the community will make or break O3DE. Okay, any questions around that? But Scale was amazing. JT can feel free to add. He's been involved in Scale for a really long time, so he knows way more in depth than I do. This was my first time attending, and it was amazing. I met with so many good companies and so many fans, and it was great. So
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, now's a good time to ask, and then I'll add a little bit at the end. Okay, I'll go ahead and speak up then. I posted the link to Scale. I encourage everybody to take a look at that. If you're not familiar with it, you can look at the schedule and the sessions, the speakers, but definitely the schedule. It comes up like a spreadsheet. There are several tracks. It's very DevOps heavy, Linux heavy, like Joe said, but it's also the open source community in general. And the reason is also is because Scale is the largest North American community organized conference. It's a community organized conference, not an industry organized conference. And it's one of the largest ones in the world. Definitely the largest in North America annual conference. Quite a few people here locally in Pasadena helped put it on. All over Southern California, people come from all over the world to help. The local team that I'm involved with, and people from JPL and different industries here in SoCal that support open source, run the AV team and things of that sort. But I would definitely encourage you to take a look, even if you're not interested in the expo or the conference. Take a look at the list of exhibitors and take a look at the actual sessions. A lot of good information. You can find out about projects in there. There's links to projects. There's links to topics where they cover things and give a synopsis. So it's just really an excellent pool of information for open source in general. Although it's mainly on the Linux platform, quite a few projects are multi-platform. They may be developed on Linux, but they do target Windows and Mac. And there is one track in particular, you'll notice each day, check each day because the tracks differ. There is one track later in the conference that's called FOSS at Home, FOSS, for free open source software at home. And that's where you find some of the graphics programs and sort in there. They definitely do want to encourage expansion into more visual and media and different industries well beyond the DevOps. Final note, you'll also notice that there are co-located events on the main link that I gave. There's
you beat me to it.
Yeah, there's several conferences in a conference.
Yep.
So that's all I was going to say. If you got any
I'm gonna add to that, JT. So to let the cat a little bit out of the bag, because we are Linux as a first class citizen for O3DE, we have been asked to co-locate an O3DE event with them next year. So we're still in discussion. Nothing has been set yet. We'll make a decision by August as to whether or not we're going to do it. But this, for a lot of you, I know a lot of you live pretty close to Pasadena. This will allow an O3DE specific event so that we talk about O3DE. We will have sessions on O3DE. I've already talked to a couple of people about would they be willing to give a talk on O3DE at this. But like I said, we're just in very, 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 very early. Does this make sense for us to do discussions? But we will have a more of a decision by August. And one of the things I want to do, Naomi, is figure out that if we did this in Pasadena, are people interested in attending it? And so I'll talk to you, Naomi, about how we want to find that information out. But but it'd be great. It'll be the first event that we've had in a while. And then I will also, for next year, I'm hoping we can do an actual O3DE event like we did in a couple of years ago. But again, that's what our memberships go towards, and the money from memberships go towards is these kinds of things. So.
Also, if I could tack on to that, because I'm well familiar with the conference and people that run the conference, we could also have if we don't have more of a co-located type event, we can also have a track, which would be like a
Yeah.
mini one. So we'll discuss that in detail as things get closer. I recommend people look at that menu item in drop down. There's also open source software career day. There's a career fair that they have on Sundays where people look for open source help. They have a job board. People come and projects come from all over the world. They'll post on that job board if you want to do volunteer work and paid work for open source software. UbuCon, which is Ubuntu's small North American conference, they have it here. So take a look at the website. There's also one final thought. Birds of a Feather, a BOF. We will definitely, the Pasadena open source group will definitely host a O3DE and Games BOF next year. And those are Birds of a Feather sessions. And that's just where you gather together people that have a common interest and you talk over things. And it's just a real ad hoc type get together, casual chat, not really a presentation necessarily, unless there's some organization to the group and you want to present, but it's mainly a networking effort. And there's several BOFs that pop up. And but they've been doing this for a while. It's the 22nd one they just did this year. So, but I encourage you to take a look at the website. And if you have any, or your organization or anybody also wants to get involved, just let me know and I'll help you contact them, or we can go through O3DE Engine if you're related, and let's just keep the momentum going. It's a great conference, highly beneficial to individuals and groups.
And speaking of momentum, so every month, because I report to the board every month, because the O3DE Foundation has a board of members, we get together once a month to talk about, the direction of O3DE, how things are going, what we need to do. So, but every month I get a report from our DevOps person, which is Mike Chang, on our downloads, and any of those kinds of metrics. And amazingly, we're still, doing the quadruple check. We've already done triple checking. We are currently on track for 5 times the downloads. So from in January and February than we had last year at the same time. So that bodes extremely well. So something people are beginning to recognize that O3DE exists. And like I said, we're seeing that in social engagements. We're seeing that in our video views. We are also, seeing that in the number of downloads. We're still tracking down exactly where the downloads are coming from. But I mean, that's, 500% increase in downloads is huge. So we are currently at 5 minutes before. I will, Naomi, is it okay if I open the floor for if anyone wants to mention anything?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so yes, I'd like to open the floor up so that if anyone wants to talk about anything, any questions, concerns, they don't have to be related to the topic, please feel free to do so. Okay, I'm not hearing any questions or concerns or comments. Also, feel free to type them in chat if you don't want to, speak. Okay, Naomi, did you have anything you wanted to bring up?
I didn't, but it's great to have you all here for our March meeting and can't wait to connect next month. Again, if you all are interested in giving demos, we're always looking to feature, community members at these meetings. Obviously today Joe kind of did it, but if you have anything at all, just feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to get you on this schedule.
So to be honest, I prefer not to do it because this meeting is about the community, and so I prefer for community members or people outside of the community even to be presenting. I already get enough exposure. I don't need any more. This is all about you guys. So if you have something you want to present or talk about, let us know.
Perfect. All right. With
Okay.
that, Joe, I think we're good to close. Thanks again, everyone. And you can find us on Discord if you need us. Bye.
Bye.